no! You're gonna get me fired! Chris is here.
Oh, I can't wait to meet him.
If I introduce you, don't say anything stupid or mean. Everybody!
Pleasure, yeah.
Heard a lot of great things about you, and we're excited to have you.
Really? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like the most prolific director ever. I think Drinking
No,
Buddies is
couldn't
like
be
your
ever.
800th film in the last 5 years.
No, Roger Corman,
Okay.
one of my heroes, made, I believe, 51 features in 15 years.
Right.
I will never achieve that level of prolificness.
Well, not with that attitude. But you seem to be trying. I mean, you've got, I think, 3 features coming out this year, technically?
There are a few more that are done that are still sort of in the pipeline. And then one that I'm editing now.
I think the obvious question is, where do you find the time?
Well, I like doing it. I find the time because being on set working with actors is my favorite place to be. So as soon as I'm done with one, or even often before I'm done with one, I'm trying to figure out what the next one's going to be. So, I mean, at times I've wished it could be a 9-to-5 job, that I could Monday through Friday just wake up and go to set every day.
It seems like that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
though.
kind
I mean,
of.
like,
I've
do you have
managed to
any
do
other
that.
hobbies?
Brewing beer.
Brewing beer is actually, so this was...
That's the other thing I do. I wanted to set something in the craft beer world. I mean, it's really exciting what's happening in America with craft beer right now. So I wanted to document a little bit of that. It's very much a relationship movie still, set in the world of craft beer, but not, not focused on that.
The film stars Olivia Wilde and Jake Johnson, and they are best friends.
Yes.
And there's obviously some sort of attraction there, but they're never single at the same time.
Right.
And then Olivia Wilde is suddenly single, and it's about that moment where you get to decide what to do.
Yes.
It feels so genuine. Is that based on a real situation that happened to you?
Not exactly, but Jake and Anna's relationship in the movie is very much modeled after my wife and I's at that point in our relationship where we'd been together for many years, and we were trying to decide, do we get married? What does that look like? Sort of, I think, a point that a lot of couples reach, which is like, okay, we're at the crossroads now. Either we get married or break up, but we can't just keep doing this thing that we're doing.
No.
So that's all very personal. I mean,
but then was there a moment of temptation to go another direction?
I think there always is. I suspect most couples have many moments of temptation all the time.
This is a film that I've read is 100% improvised.
Yeah.
But you had to have a structure.
The dialogue is 100% improvised.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're operating from a pretty well-defined outline.
Did you develop that outline with the actors, or was that set for them?
I did develop it with the actors. I first sort of developed it with Alicia Vancouvering, my producer on the movie. We sort of put the broad strokes into place, and then as the actors came on board, they were big participants in the shaping of that.
When you do that much improvisation, is there just a ton left on the cutting room floor?
We shoot a lot more exposition-y stuff than we end up using. There is a sense with the improv that, we have to spell out everything that's happening. And then you get in the editing room and you realize that, of course, the audience can easily follow this story, and you don't need the actors sort of verbalizing out loud what's going on all the time.
Before the scene begins, you just say, here's your motivation, here's where the scene needs to end.
We talk about why the scene's in there, like sort of maybe what my first inspiration was, why I felt like writing that scene or sort of conceiving that scene. The tone of the scene, like where it's going to fall in the movie, and whether I want it to be a quick funny scene, whether I want it to be a longer dramatic scene. We sort of have a general conversation about what its function is. There's an effort on everybody's part not to over-talk it, because I think that you can fall into being hyper-analytical, and you can talk yourself out of a lot of things that way. And so, I sort of try and provide enough information to do a take, and then it's really after that first take that then we can start digging in and sort of figuring out what's working and what's not.
In that process, do you end up finding things that, like even plot points that weren't in the film before?
Absolutely. Olivia and Jake, they have the scene on the, Anna falls asleep and they sort of sneak out while they're in Michigan, and they have this conversation on the porch where she talks about heartbreak and this previous relationship that she had been in. That's a scene where if you were to look at my outline, it just says, Jake and Olivia drink beers and sort of have an intimate conversation. But it doesn't dictate what that intimate conversation will be or what they will choose to share with each other. And so she tells this great story about being in this relationship, and the guy says,
I think we should, and he's not like a football player, so this is a weird thing for him to say. I think we should take a knee on this romance
What
stuff.
does that mean?
That's a great line, and it's like a great moment in the movie, and it's not something that was written. It was not something that needed to happen or I knew was going to happen. But as soon as it does happen, I feel like the audience automatically knows so much more about her. That's a big learning moment in the movie in terms of who she is and what maybe some of her past relationships have looked like. And then that's happening, multiple times a day.
It's not a traditional structure. You could go when Harry Met Sally met this, it's about how they eventually end up together. This is more about a moment that could happen. Was there ever a temptation to give it like a happier ending or make it more conventional?
Certainly, those conversations came up. I mean, it's not that exciting to me. The exciting thing to me is to show these characters who kind of walk up to the line and have some realizations, and that movie's been made a lot of times before, that other version of it, and so if we're going to put all this time and energy and effort into it, it's exciting to me to try and tell a different kind of story, or something that starts out the same way and doesn't wrap up in a nice, neat package.
Yeah. Now you have a cameo in this film. A very fun one.
Yes.
Do you improvise a fight scene?
We did.
Did you really?
We did.
You didn't choreograph that or nothing?
No, we didn't. And maybe that was stupid of us because I feel like every single take, neither of us knew what was about to happen. Jake's scrappy. Don't get in a fight with Jake.
He looks like he's been around.
He goes for the throat, is what I learned.
End the fight quickly.
Yes,
That's
exactly. He incapacitates you right away, and then.
What was your stratagem?
I have size on him, so I figured I could get away with a reach thing, but he sneaks in there. I will not be ever fighting Jake Johnson. I suspect he would kick my ass.
Everyone drinks beer constantly. In this movie, and it seems like a recipe for disaster if it's not. Was it non-alcoholic beer?
It was real beer.
Whole time.
The whole time. Take one of day one, it was fake beer, and then the actors instantly decided that was gross and that they would rather just drink the real stuff. It's spread out over the course of 3 weeks. They weren't drinking nearly as much as it looks like they are in the movie.
Well, you just imagine you'll do multiple takes, and
right.
each take they're drinking, that's got to add up.
It does, but it adds up to less than a beer a day, probably. But no, it was when I finished the first cut of the movie, I was like, good Lord, are they drinking a lot in this? It didn't really occur to me.
They have a problem.
Scene by scene. Yeah, it looks like that. Scene by scene, it was kind of like each time I was like, oh, it makes sense if they had a beer here, and then yeah, they'd probably be drinking here. And then when I finished the first assembly cut of the movie, I was like, they have a beer in every scene of this movie. They're never not drinking.
Yeah. Another actor who's in this movie is Ty West, who is himself a fantastic director. I love House of the Devil in particular. Now, you seem to have a close relationship with Ty West, with Simon Barrett and Adam Wingard. Yeah. Do you just agree to be in everyone's movies? Like, hey, free this weekend?
Certainly. There is weirdly that aspect to it of just kind of like, so-and-so would be funny in this, let's just sort of rope them in. But also, I also think that they're great filmmakers, and so it's sort of part of the deal of being a member of a community, we have to support each other. And what's exciting right now is that this community that was at one point very small and working in a very micro-budget way is sort of having a moment right now where people are starting to see the work. So it's fun that as everybody's sort of doing bigger projects, the cross-pollination is actually there on screen.
When you think about other filmmakers who are very closely connected, you think about people like the Cahiers du Cinema, French New Wave. And,
sure.
Do you have is this a movement, or have you guys named this amongst yourselves?
No, mumblecore has been the word that sort of early on sort of was the
Do you care for that word?
I'm all right with it. At this point, it seems like it's going to stick, so I might as well embrace it rather than be bitter the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's a dumb word, but I've been living with the word for probably 8 years now or something that it's been kicking around. At this point, I'm resigned to being a mumblecore director. But the horror world creeping in is a new thing. Yeah, mumblegore is what they've been saying.
Is it really? That's cute. Because again, you see your films and they're so naturalistic. Yeah. And they're really human, and then you'll do something like your segment in VHS, which was, I thought, the scariest segment in VHS. It was really, really cool. But were you eager to exercise that part of your brain?
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun to sort of step outside of my comfort zone. Yeah. And also, after several years of acting for these guys and getting to know them, it was really cool to go work with them and sort of see what they do. And I think that there's a lot of similarities between horror films and comedy films in terms of timing and a build-up and a release.
Well, they're trying to get a very distinct reaction.
Yes,
kind of trying to make you laugh. It's just an emotional thing.
And you can tell whether it's working or not. That's the other thing I like about the genre. The audience laughs or they don't laugh. The audience screams or they don't scream. There's no ambiguity. Yeah. And I sort of, historically had lived in a world of ambiguity where, you know, even if the audience was having a deep sort of reaction to my movie, it wasn't an audible one, and it wasn't one that I was necessarily privy to as a filmmaker. And so, like, going to Sundance with VHS and sitting in a room with 500 people and hearing everybody all at once go felt really good to me. I was like, oh my God, no wonder you guys do this. Like, this is amazing. So now I'm sort of jonesing for that again.
If you did genre stuff, if you did like, I'm trying to imagine what a Joe Swanberg action movie is like.
Here's what I would say. A couple years ago, I would have told you that a Joe Swanberg action movie would be all the scenes in between the action, where I would be subverting the genre. These days, I would, you know, if I did it, I would want to go for it. I would hope that it would be action-packed.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you. All right, see Drinking Buddies.
Please.
Please.
The problem with heartbreak is that to you it's like an atomic bomb, and to the world it's just really cliche because in the end we all have the same experience.